Hi, this is Ricky Sun. I'm a Pi consultant. Today I'd like to share with you Pi data archive migration. Well, why am I sharing that? Because I did a Pi migration for my client recently, and we are moving from the old server to the new servers, right? And it was in Windows 2012 R2, and then we want to move it to the 2019. And we are moving the collective, Pi collective, and it is a HA setup, right? What is HA? HA is the high availability, and it means that when, let's say, your Pi data archive primary is down, then your secondary will still collect data, and your user can still see data from the secondary, right? That's the purpose of it. You will still have access to your data even though one machine is down. That's why there's a Pi collective, and Pi collective is just a um, you can have multiple secondary and only one primary. So you can have a collective with like many servers as well, and it's just a name to say, okay, you are looking at this set of Pi data archive as one collective. Um, and yeah, and we move our servers from 6 to 9 p.m. at night. And why do we do that? Because we want to create less disruption, even though there is a collective and people can access data from the secondary. We try to avoid all the possibility of problem. So we want to reduce noise, right? So we do it at night, and well, other than working at night, we don't have problems. We just shift our time a little bit, and then we would be able to do it at night, right? And cause less disruption. And there's also less people accessing the servers, and we have yeah. And that's why it is doing it at night. And my client requests that, so I myself will um, match them, right? So my takeaway today, like this is like a video of my takeaway, right? After my migrations, right, with my experience combined from OSIsoft, I did many Pi collective move, but I think I can summarize six most important point for you to move to migrate the Pi collective, right? So the first point is install same version. So you have an old server and a new server, right? And they are running in different operating system. But what we need to do when we migrate Pi server is to install the same version on the new server as the old server. So we have to match them, everything. So we have to, I guess we have to make sure if it has perfmon, if it has like a ping interface, everything has to be installed as well, right? So you cannot like, oh, this side have um, something this side doesn't have, right? So match everything, all the software as well as the version. That's a recommended migration procedures. I have never, I guess, I have never not followed the procedure, which is to migrate to the same version. Um, if you migrate to a different version, like let's say you don't know, right? Like just don't know, you didn't read manual and all that, then you might migrate to the latest version, and then you have an old version. I don't know what is going to happen. You tell me if you did it before, but that is going to, I think that is going to ask for trouble, when you try to do this, and you're wasting time too because something is not going to work. it's not the same, it's not going to work. So that's why move to the same version. And the second recommendation or takeaway is to take your backup, right, to the Pi backup before you do the migration. Why? Because you can establish your baseline, and in case, well, even myself have many times moving Pi server to another, to like for multiple company, right? I would say I'm still learning. I will see things that didn't happen to this client, but this happened to this client, right? So you can never tell if everything will be the same. So take a backup just to establish your baseline, right? If anything goes wrong, you go back to this baseline, right? You get, this is your safe zone, right? Otherwise, if you don't have your backup, you upgrade your servers, things corrupted, you become like everything become a mess, and then you go. I don't know how you can face your client anymore when you tell your client, hey, I kind of messed up. All the archive, I cannot register anymore, and wow, that will be very depressing because and then like you have to tell them, oh, I have to start new, install a new Pi server for you, start collecting data and all that. And then also you generate so much work for yourself too. Like if you start new, you have to go in each interface to connect to the new Pi server. And also you have to create tags. So there's so much work you have to do if you mess up, right? So take your backup. Don't argue with me. Don't argue with me about not taking backup. Yeah, I cannot imagine if things go really wrong. What the worst case is start new, but start new have a consequences, which is to redirect all the interface and okay, I don't want to talk about it. So the third one is to create a procedure for your migration. So ideally, if your client have a test environment, you do those first, right? A development environment, test environment, TQA environment, right? Do those first because they need to migrate anyway. So you get to practice once, right? And then you copy down all these procedures that you need to remember, and then you move to production. Then you will have a seamless migration because you did it once. You see the problem before, you're going to face it again, and this will provide you so much confidence. But when I was in OSIsoft, I help, well, my client only pay me to move production environment. Then what can we do, right? We simulate the migration process, right? I use VM and try to migrate myself, and then make sure I have an idea and then copy down the procedure as well, right? That's the closest you can get, but you will not have the same experience as you have your client have a testing environment for you to move, right? But you can only do your best, right? So have a procedure in place. So when you I don't know, when you're struggling or freak out, you follow the procedures, right? That's the easier thing to do. So create your procedures. Fourth point is to utilize Pi firewall, right? Well, this is getting a little technical. Why am I suggesting that, right? Because Pi firewall will work each and every time, right? For Windows firewall, if you turn it on, you can also do that, but sometimes IT managing it because of group policy, right? So you cannot really change Windows firewall. And don't talk about you can manage the hardware firewall, which is managed by IT and networking person, right? So Pi firewall will work each and every time. Utilize it so that you can have one less problem to worry about, right? This is in your control, right? So utilize Pi firewall. And then when you are turning your Pi firewall and start the Pi server, right? And you want to confirm your data are buffering, right? So if you didn't do this check before you migrate, I mean, some of the interface might not use buffer, and then if you didn't check that and then add the buffer back in, you'll see a data gap, right? Let's say you draw a trend, and then between the time you move Pi server, there's a big gap, and then your client is not going to like it, but what can you do? But I'm telling you, make sure you look at each interface are buffering. Like, it's easy to look at too. Like, you just, I guess, you visit every single server that has interface, and then you just look at the buffer and see if after you turn on the firewall, is data buffering. If data buffering, then you're good, right? So one problem to less problem to worry about. And lastly is the most important is communicate well with your IT, right? IT is your friend, not your enemy. You would want to collaborate with them. If they don't know how to do it, you educate them, make sure they can do it. Make sure you tell them every single details of what you would like them to do, right? Even though maybe it's not your responsibility, right? You point out like, like just example, right? Recently, I tried to do a backup, right? But try to do Pi backup, but the account does not have right to do a Pi backup, right? I tested, it's not working. I cannot back up due to a permission issue. I even back up to the local drive, it's not working. So, and then I have to work with my IT, tell them to change the local security policy, I think it's called. Yeah. So it's kind of like a good policy for them, and they have to change, give backup operator permission for those policy, and then I would be able to back up, and I have to tell them exactly where they need to change their policy, and after that, after they understand, they know how to do it, right? They just need you to tell them exactly what is the problem. So I show them the problem, I also show them the solution of what they need to do, and then but I don't have permission, they have permission, so they do it for me. So it's kind of like that. So make sure communicate well with your IT, change IP address, and when you move to migrate your Pi server, right? Change IP, change host name, right? Map your like gigantic archive drive, right? Those are the most important thing for IT to help you, right? Then you will have a seamless Pi collective migration. That's all I want to share. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe as well as hit the bell icon. I'll see you next week. Bye.